Lately, I've been thinking a lot about AI, and not just in the obvious way of this is impressive technology, but in the deeper way of asking what it's doing to people. Because AI isn't a tool like a hammer, a car, or a dishwasher is. A hammer is sort of an extension of your hand, a car is sort of an extension of your legs, and a dishwasher saves you physical labor. But AI enters into something more intimate: language, thought, judgment, creativity, memory, research, decision making, and self expression. That's why the question feels so strange. Like, when you use AI, are you becoming more capable because you have access to more information and better organization? Or are you becoming less capable because you're no longer doing certain mental tasks yourself? And I don't think the answer is obvious. And no, this isn't going to be some lazy anti AI episode because I use AI and most of us use AI on a daily basis or at the very least a weekly basis, whether we know it or not. I think AI is incredibly useful, and honestly, it might just be one of the most important tools that humans have ever even created. But that's exactly why it's worth taking seriously. Because powerful tools don't just change what we do, they change what we practice. And what we practice changes who we become. So, anyways, I've been thinking most about the cognitive cost of AI, not the financial cost, the political cost, or even the job market cost, although those are obviously huge questions. I'm talking about the cognitive cost here. What does it cost the mind when we outsource more and more of the thinking process? And this is not me talking down to people that use AI. I want to reinforce that statement again because I also use AI and it makes my life easier and enriches my life in a lot of ways as well. So, this isn't some you people are becoming dependent on AI. This is, are we all becoming dependent on AI? Are we all changing our relationship to thought without fully noticing it? But before we decide whether AI is uniquely dangerous, it does help to remember that humans have always used tools to think. Like, a key term here is cognitive offloading. And cognitive offloading isn't a new thing. Like, human civilization is partly built on taking things that would otherwise live inside the mind and placing them outside the mind. It'd be too simple to say AI is bad because it offloads thinking. Humans have always offloaded cognition. Like, writing is cognitive offloading. Before there was even writing, if you wanted to preserve something like a story for future generations, someone had to remember it. But writing allowed memory to exist outside the skull. A calendar is cognitive offloading. Like, you don't have to hold every appointment in your mind. You put it somewhere else and trust that system to remind you. A calculator is cognitive offloading. You don't have to manually calculate everything. You use a tool. A map is cognitive offloading. You don't have to memorize entire landscapes or figure out and remember a particular route to a particular place. We now have GPS. Books are external memory. Libraries are external civilization scale memory. Google is external recall. A notes app is external working memory. So the human mind has never existed in isolation. We've always extended cognition into tools and symbols, language, institutions, and other people. So the question isn't whether cognitive offloading is bad. The question is, what type of cognition are we offloading? And are we still practicing the abilities that matter? So, like, using some of my previous examples of cognitive offloading, there's nothing wrong with using a calculator. But if a child uses a calculator before understanding addition, multiplication, algebra, calculus, whatever it might be, then something is lost there. Because they're getting the answer, but they don't understand how they got the answer. Something is lost there. And let's take the GPS example. There's nothing wrong with using GPS. But if you use GPS constantly, you may become worse at building a mental map of where you are. And like with the notes example as well, the notes app example, if you write everything down and just never try to remember anything, your relationship to memory changes. So the question really becomes, when AI helps us think, is it like a calculator being used after we understand math? Or is it like using a calculator before we've ever even learned what the numbers mean? Or when you put them through their paces of addition, subtraction, algebra, whatever have you. So I think that cognitive offloading isn't necessarily the problem. It's mindless cognitive offloading that's the problem. But AI feels different because it doesn't just store information or calculate something mechanical. It literally produces language in the shape of thought. Like, it doesn't merely give us information, it gives us finished, polished, human-sounding thought. And that's what makes it powerful and dangerous in good and bad ways. Like, a calculator doesn't pretend to have wisdom. A map doesn't pretend to understand your life. Google gives you links, but you still have to click and read and compare, interpret, and decide. But AI collapses a lot of those steps. You ask a question, and it gives you something that looks like an answer. Not just data, an answer. A summary, a plan, a conclusion. A creative concept. Or a persuasive argument. Like, just to name a few of the millions of things that it can give you. And because the output sounds coherent, it can give you the feeling that thinking has occurred. But the important question is, who is thinking? Did you think? Did you understand? Or did the model just generate, and did you just accept the answer? Because one danger with AI is that it can produce the feeling of understanding before you've gone through the process of understanding. Like, you can ask it to summarize a book, and basically feel like you know the book. You can ask it to explain an argument and feel like you've considered the issue. You can ask it to write a paragraph and feel like you expressed yourself. And on the creativity side of things, you can ask it to brainstorm ideas and feel like you were creative. You can even ask it to answer something like a complicated moral or scientific or health or philosophical question and feel like you now have a position. But the feeling of having a thought isn't the same thing as thinking. Keeping in mind that that doesn't mean that AI can't help you understand, because it absolutely can. Sometimes AI explains something in exactly the way you needed to hear it. Sometimes it gives you that concept that you were missing. Sometimes it shows you the structure of an issue or helps you realize what you actually think. So the danger isn't that AI gives explanations, it's really when the explanation becomes a substitute for mental effort instead of a support for mental effort. So I think the danger isn't that AI gives us answers, it's that it gives us the sensation of having thought. And that brings us to the first possible cognitive cost, which is cognitive atrophy. And so, better describe what I mean by atrophy. It's like when you break your leg or break your arm and you have to put that arm in a stiff cast for a very long time. Well, during that time, you're not really able to use your muscles. You're not able to bend your elbow, let's say, if you broke your arm in a particular place and you have one of those casts that go up your whole arm. Like, you can't even bend your elbow, let alone exercise at the gym or something like that. And when you don't use your muscles, you start to lose your muscles. And that process is called muscular atrophy. So what we're talking about here is the concept of if you don't use it, you lose it, but for cognition. And the same principle is very much the case for your brain as well as your muscles. If you do not use your brain, if you do not challenge your brain, you will have some level of cognitive atrophy over time. So if AI repeatedly does the hard part for us, we may stop training the mental abilities that make us capable. The gym analogy is actually useful here. Let's say you go to the gym and a machine lifts the weights for you. You might move through the workout, but you didn't actually train the muscle. The stress is the point. The resistance is the point. And even the discomfort is the point. Your body adapts because it's forced to do something difficult. And the mind, the brain, works this way too. Not exactly the same, but close enough. Certain cognitive abilities only develop because we repeatedly use them under some level of strain. Like writing trains thought because you have to turn vague ideas into language. And that works a very particular part of your brain, and many different parts of your brain are recruited at once as well. Summarizing things yourself trains comprehension because you have to decide what matters from the entirety of what you are reading and actually pick out the important pieces. That's why sometimes in school, you would actually have assignments to summarize a text, because that is a skill in itself, and it does get you really well practiced at picking out and understanding the key points, most important things from whatever you're reading. Reading difficult books trains attention because you have to stay with something that doesn't instantly reward you. The act of remembering something trains your memory because you are using it to retrieve something without immediately outsourcing it to something that can tell you the information, like the Notes app or something like that. Creating things and being creative trains many different parts of your brain as well. And arguing, even the act of arguing a point, like in a philosophical discussion, let's say, that trains logic because you have to connect claims with reasons. And so your ability to do that is trained through actively expressing and arguing your points. So friction isn't always bad, but modern technology tends to treat friction like it's the enemy. Like anything slow is bad, anything difficult is bad, anything inconvenient is bad. Anything that creates effort should just be optimized away. But in learning, friction is often the training stimulus. The blank page is friction. Confusion is friction. Trying to explain an idea and failing is friction. Having to read something multiple times because you didn't understand it the previous times around is friction. And just having to make your own decisions is friction. Yes, these experiences are uncomfortable, but they're also how the mind gets sharper. So if AI removes every difficult cognitive moment, it might also remove the moments that would have made us more capable. So, for example, like with writing, if AI writes the first draft every single time, you might become worse at starting from nothing. Like the blank page is painful, friction, but it's also where you discover what you think. And if you never face the blank page, you might produce more words, but become less articulate. And like with reading, if AI summarizes everything before you read it, you probably gain the conclusion and understand what happens in that text, but you're completely circumventing the experience when part of reading is the slow transformation of attention. A great book isn't just a container of takeaways. It's a way of spending time inside another mind. If you reduce everything to a summary, you get information, but you lose that experience, that encounter with another mind that you are able to spend time inside through their words. And with memory, if you can instantly ask AI anything, you might stop trying to retrieve information yourself. But retrieval is part of memory formation. The act of trying to remember something matters. Like there's a difference between knowing something and knowing where to ask for it. With decision making, if you ask AI to make every decision easier, you might slowly lose confidence in your own judgment. You might become the type of person that can't choose without asking a system to list the pros and cons first. That's a very real thing that happens to people and can happen to people. Slowly but surely, before you've even realized that it's happened, you're there in that place. It's like asking AI to make a decision easier can seem harmless at first, but over time, it could weaken your internal authority, where you're now second guessing yourself or outsourcing your opinions every single time. And here's a big one with creativity. If AI can just generate 10 ideas for you immediately, you might just skip the slower stage where you actually have to figure out what you're interested in and what you want to do. Because creativity isn't just having ideas, it's knowing which ideas are worth pursuing. And if the machine generates those ideas endlessly, your role can shrink into selecting from options rather than discovering something from within yourself. So it really does make me wonder what happens to the mind when it stops being the place where the first attempt happens. But this is only one side of the argument, because there's a good version of AI use as well, of course. Because AI can also expand cognition. It can help us think better if we are still actively thinking. So, the strongest case for AI isn't that it lets lazy people avoid work. The strongest case is that it gives curious people more leverage. AI can help you get unstuck. It can help you organize messy thoughts. It can help you compare ideas. It can give you counter arguments or explain something at a more simple level to help you understand it better. Or it can help in the same sort of way by explaining something at a more advanced level. It can help you practice certain things. It can ask you questions. It can take a vague idea that you've come up with and formulated yourself and help you turn it into something clearer. Like if you have an idea that you want to write about or talk about, let's say, you have the idea. You came up with that. You have the concern about this topic. You weren't just randomly generated this as an idea, like it is within your taste preferences. It's something that you would think up, obviously, because you thought it up. And you have the creative direction with it, but AI can help build a structure around it. It just means that AI became part of the thinking environment. And that's really the distinction here. Bad AI use replaces the mind, but good AI use gives the mind a better surface to push against. Like, to bring in a martial arts reference here, AI should be like a sparring partner. A sparring partner isn't a ghostwriter. A sparring partner doesn't fight the match for you. It gives you resistance. It exposes your weaknesses. It forces you to respond and become sharper. That is one of the best uses of AI, is as a sparring partner. metaphorically speaking, of course. Don't just ask, what should I think? Ask, what am I missing? What's the strongest counter argument? Those sort of things. How could this be misunderstood? What's the best argument on both sides? Because AI is dangerous when it becomes a substitute for thought, but it's powerful when it becomes resistance for thought. Like with learning something, asking AI to explain something so that you don't have to read. That's what I'd constitute a bad use of AI in terms of the slippery slope of cognitive atrophy. But if you actually read the text and you go and you say, I'm currently in the process of learning this, I just read this thing, and this is what I think it means. Is my understanding correct? Or am I misunderstanding anything? Like, it can really help clarify exactly where you're missing the mark, if you are missing the mark at all. And with writing, what I'd say would constitute a bad use of AI would be, write this for me. Just straight up write this thing for me. But a good use would be, here are my rough thoughts. Help me organize them without changing the core idea. That can be really helpful. And you're still utilizing your brain. You had to utilize your brain to get your rough thoughts and ideas out there. And then you could use the tool to help you structure them better. With the decision-making example, bad use would obviously be just, tell me what to do here. But a good use would be, help me see the trade-offs that I can use to make a better informed decision. Now, that's a good use as long as, of course, in my earlier example, you don't let that get away from you and make that the only way you can make any decision, obviously. And like with research, another bad use is going to be just give me the answer and I'm going to trust it. Regardless, I will blindly accept whatever answer you give me here. Instead of having it sort of give you a starting map that you can then verify the important pieces of. So the key difference might not be whether you use AI. It might be when you use AI. Because the big distinction here, I think, is before effort versus after effort. Using AI before any effort can weaken you, but using AI after you've put in some thought and effort can strengthen you. And I think this might actually be the most practical distinction in the whole episode so far that we've come to. Before effort versus after effort. The order matters. If AI enters before you've even tried to think, it might replace the very struggle that would have trained you and worked your mind, exercised your cognitive abilities. If AI enters after you've tried to think and exercise your cognitive abilities, it can help you refine and test, expand, and improve. So like with reading a book. With reading a book, if you ask AI to summarize a book before you read it, you quite likely are going to reduce the book down to takeaways. So you might know what happens, you might know the themes, but you haven't actually had the experience of reading it. You haven't spent time in the author's actual words the way that they intended you to hear them and experience them. You haven't actually felt your own interpretations and ideas forming around the text. You haven't had to wrestle with your attention, staying fixed on extremely long, drawn out narratives. But if you read the book first and then ask AI to discuss the themes and compare characters or explain things, it can deepen the experience. So, same tool, different order, completely different effect. If you ask AI to write your paragraph before you even know what you mean, you're outsourcing authorship. But if you write a messy paragraph first and then ask AI to help clarify it, you are still the origin of thought there. The tool is polishing, organizing. It's not replacing your voice at the very source. Your mind is still in the loop. So you don't want AI to be where your thinking begins and completely cutting out the act of thinking entirely. You want it to be where your thinking gets tested, sharpened, challenged, and organized. All things that AI does really well. And of course, sometimes you do need AI before effort because you don't even know where to start. Now, that can be fine. There's nothing wrong with using AI for orientation. But the problem is making that the default. If you never even attempt the first thought yourself, you might just slowly lose the habit of first thought. And habits matter because tools don't just change tasks, they change us. Every repeated use of a tool trains us. AI isn't only a productivity tool, it's a habit-shaping environment. The question isn't only, did AI help me finish the task? The deeper question is, what did using AI train in me? Did it train patience or impatience? Did it train curiosity? Did it train judgment or dependence? Did it train you to be precise or did it train you to be vague? Did it actually provide you with understanding or merely the appearance of understanding? Because it could truly go either way. And it all goes back to what part of the process you are utilizing this tool in. Before effort or after effort? Before thought or after thought? Like AI gives instant answers, and that's useful. But if you get used to instant answers, then slower forms of understanding can start to feel completely intolerable. A difficult book feels too slow. A long conversation feels inefficient. A complex problem is just ridiculously annoying to you. You begin to just expect the thought to arrive instantly because that's what you're used to. That's what you always do. And you also haven't needed to actually read a difficult book or have a long conversation or solve a complex problem. But some thoughts only come slowly. Like with the judgment versus dependence example that I gave, AI can give you options, but judgment is choosing among those options according to your values, your taste, your preferences, and just the context in general. If you always need AI to tell you what's best, You might be practicing dependence rather than judgment. A person can be really good at prompting AI and very bad at deciding. Like with the example of understanding versus the appearance of understanding, this is really one of the biggest dangers because AI can make people sound informed faster than ever. You can produce polished language around a topic you barely even understand. That is socially powerful, but it creates a gap between presentation and comprehension. Like you might be presenting to the world or to yourself or whatever have you that you are informed on this topic, you have full understanding of it, but in reality, you actually have no understanding of it or comprehension of it. And so in that way, the danger is that you become comfortable with seeming intelligent. And you can see where that temptation comes from. Because what we don't want is society rewarding people who can sound intelligent without having done the work of becoming intelligent. Because what that means is they sound intelligent, but they actually have no understanding or comprehension or accurate understanding or accurate comprehension of what they're talking about. Because through AI, they could. Because they can sound perfectly intelligent and coherent on a particular topic, but they've completely outsourced it and actually have no idea what they're talking about or doing when it comes to that topic. And that does connect to a bigger issue, the loss of that first draft mentality. Because one of the most important things the AI can remove is the messy first draft. And that might be where a lot of the real thinking happens. And I think it is where a lot of the real thinking happens. Because from there, after that first draft, it's just a lot of refinement and minor, some major editing. There's something really, really valuable in that ugly first attempt. The first draft of anything. The first bad song idea. The first draft of an essay. This, I think, is really where thought develops. And AI can give you a polished version before you've even gone through that first draft. And it feels good because it completely removes the frustration and friction. But it also removes a lot of discovery and creativity. And it matters a lot because the early stage of creativity isn't just about output. It's about learning what you like by making iterations of things that don't quite work or you don't think they quite work. It's not your taste. You don't quite like it. And so you refine it or you figure out a different way to do it, whatever it might be. You learn your voice by sounding unlike yourself at first. An AI can flood you with creative options, but too many options can also disconnect you from your own instincts. So that ugly first draft, it's not a failure of thinking, it is thinking. And this doesn't mean that AI has no place in creativity, but it means that we have to protect the part of creativity that forms us. So, in a world where everyone can generate whatever they want in any of these domains, the person with taste, the person who knows what's good, knows what fits, knows what to reject, becomes more important. Because generation isn't creation by itself. Creation really does involve selection and intention and meaning and judgment. AI can produce a lot of things that are good enough, but good enough is dangerous for creative people. Good enough can numb your standards, and good enough can make you stop searching for the thing that actually feels alive. So maybe the future isn't humans doing nothing. Maybe the future is humans becoming editors of thought. But that has risks too. A lot of risks, I would say. Because one possible future is that humans stop being originators and just become editors of machine-generated material. That can be powerful in some ways, but it can also really shrink us. Like, being an editor isn't bad. Editing's a real skill, but if your entire creative and intellectual life just becomes editing AI output, you might lose contact with the deeper source of your own ideas. Like, there's a difference between I made this and AI helped me improve it, and AI made this and I approved it. Both can produce something usable, but they don't form the same person. Like, one trains expression, the other just trains selection. And selection matters, but it's not everything. Like, imagine a student who never writes from scratch. They only edit AI essays. They might become good at recognizing decent paragraphs, but can they build an argument on their own? Like, simply being a part of these processes isn't really enough if your role in that process just keeps getting smaller and smaller. And that leads to the question of intelligence itself. Because the question isn't whether AI instantly lowers IQ. The deeper question is whether AI reduces the practice of intelligence. When people say, is AI making us less intelligent, it can sound like a claim that using Gemini automatically, instantly lowers your IQ by 5 points. That's not what I'm saying. Basically, what I'm saying is, instead of, is AI making us less intelligent, what I'm more so asking at this point is AI causing us to practice intelligence less often? Because intelligence isn't just a fixed trait. It's also expressed through your habits. Attention is a habit. Careful reading is a habit. Being skeptical of things is a habit. Actively using your judgment is a habit. And if you stop practicing the behaviors through which intelligence expresses itself, then even if your underlying capacity for intelligence is the same, your functional intelligence might decline. Because here's the distinction. There's raw cognitive capacity, and then there's trained cognitive capability. AI might not change cognitive capacity immediately, but it can definitely affect cognitive capability. It can definitely affect how sharp, articulate, independent, and deep your thinking is. So maybe it doesn't make you less intelligent in the abstract. It just makes you less practiced at being intelligent. And that's interesting because it means that you're obviously not just going to wake up one day and feel stupid. You basically just become less comfortable with thinking without assistance. That blank page would feel harder. Reading would feel slower. Remembering things would just feel unnecessary. Making decisions would feel way more stressful. You wouldn't experience it as a noticeable decline. You would actually experience it as convenience. But again, the opposite is also possible. Because AI could make people more thoughtful if it's used to increase reflection rather than replace it. And that's very real. That is a very real optimistic view on it. And AI could definitely make people better thinkers and can expose people to ideas that they wouldn't have ever encountered, possibly. It can explain complicated subjects. It's great at that. It can make learning more accessible. You can use it to literally learn a new language. You can do so many incredible positive things with it. People use it to learn technical skills. It can literally function as a tutor or a coach or a debate partner. Those things are really, really incredible, actually. And the big distinction here is that in almost all of these cases, like helping you learn a language, like functioning as a tutor for you, helping you learn a technical skill, the good comes when the user remains active. The user asks follow-up questions. And so, like a lot of things, AI can definitely make a curious person more curious, but it can also make a passive person more passive. So maybe AI amplifies your existing relationship to thought. If you want truth, it can help you search. If you want convenience, it can help you avoid most, if not all, of the cognitive work. If you want to understand, it can tutor you. If you want to sound like you understand, it can fake it for you. So the real question becomes, how should we use it? Because again, AI is a very beautiful and useful tool in so many ways. We just need principles for using AI in a way that keeps the mind alive, so to speak. Like, I definitely don't think that the answer is just to straight up refuse AI or something like that. Like, AI is here. And again, I think it is a great and useful tool that I use and many people use. So it just seems unrealistic and silly to even go down that path of we should just refuse AI. I think the answer is to use it consciously. And by using it consciously, I mean think first when the thinking matters. This goes back to earlier examples. If you're trying to become a better writer, write before asking AI to rewrite. If you're trying to understand a book, read the text before asking AI to summarize. If you're trying to form an opinion around something, think before asking AI for the opinion. Not every time, but often enough that your mind remains the origin. enough that your mind is consistently, truly thinking. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. And that'd be rule number 1, let's say. Think first when the thinking matters. Now, rule number 2. Rule number 2 would be something like, don't outsource the skill you're trying to build. Like if you're trying to build memory, don't always outsource that memory. If you're trying to build writing, don't always outsource writing. If you're trying to build judgment, don't outsource every single decision. Again, it goes back to that gym example. You can have the machine lift the weights for you, but you're not actually training that muscle at all. Yes, you finished the workout. You got the reps in, but you didn't actually use or train your muscles, although you might have gotten the feeling that you did. And you completely circumvented the work and the effort that you would have had to have done to actually use those muscles to finish the workout. So use AI around the skill, not always instead of the skill. And rule number 3, I would say a good rule of thumb would be to use AI to challenge, not just comfort. Don't only ask AI to validate you. Ask it what you're missing or what you could do better. What's the best counter argument to what you've said here? Where is your thinking weakest? Because we know this with people, but it's the same thing with a tool. A person or a tool that always agrees with you will just make you worse and is not benefiting you. But a person and a tool that gives honest, useful feedback and resistance in some cases can actually make you better. Rule 4, I would say prefer questions over answers. That's rule 4. So instead of asking, what's the answer? Ask, what questions should I be asking? What would it take to change my mind on this particular topic? These sort of things keep you active when you prefer questions over answers, because you actually have to be, again, a part of the loop. Rule number 5, this probably should have been rule number 1, but I'm only just thinking of it now. It's the most obvious one. Verify important claims, because we all know AI can be wrong. This is one of the first things that they teach you about LLMs and things like that. Confident language isn't the same as truth. AI can hallucinate. AI can get information wrong. So, especially for important topics, really make sure that you verify the truth. Use AI as a starting point, but not as the final authority. Don't just blindly accept the answer. Now, this one's huge. Rule number 6, I would say, is to protect your voice. Protect your voice. AI can help organize, it can help refine things, but when it comes to anything creative, expressive, you can't let the convenience erase your voice out of it. And lastly, I'd say, what is this, rule number 7? Rule number 7, lastly, I would say would be keep some things manual. That's important. Not everything needs to be optimized. Sometimes it's good to write without AI and read without summaries and remember something without searching it. Just let the mind work. Not because tools are bad, but because unassisted thinking is worth preserving. It really is. So again, the goal isn't to avoid AI or refuse it. It's really to avoid becoming mentally helpless without it. Because there is a world, there is a reality in which you could go either way. So what is the cognitive cost of AI? Well, as we've outlined here, the cognitive cost is not just one thing. It's a set of possible trade-offs. The cost might be attention. We become less able to stay with slow, difficult material. The cost might be memory, because we retrieve less because everything's available. The cost might be writing, because we express less from scratch. It might be judgment, because we ask for options so often that we lose confidence choosing. It might be creativity. We generate more, but we originate less. The cost might be patience, because we expect every answer immediately. And the cost might be agency, where we slowly stop feeling like the thinker and just become the operator of a thinking machine. But costs aren't always reasons to reject something, of course. Cars have a physical cost. People walk less. Calculators have a cost. People do less mental math. The internet has an attention cost. People remember things differently, but we still use these tools because they also create benefits, of course. So the true question here isn't, is there a cost? There's always a cost. The real question is, are the trade-offs worth it? And can we use the tool in a way that reduces the cost while preserving the benefit? Because the existence of that cognitive cost doesn't mean that AI is all bad. It just means that AI is powerful enough to require a philosophy of use, at least if we want to keep our cognitive faculties intact and well-trained. AI isn't going to make us smarter or weaker. It's going to train us according to how we use it. The correct conclusion definitely is not panic. And it's definitely not blind optimism either. The real conclusion is attention. Pay attention to how you use it. Pay attention to when you reach for it. Pay attention to whether you're using it to go deeper or to avoid going deep. Or whether it's making you more curious or more passive, more capable or more dependent. The question isn't whether AI can think. It's whether we are still thinking when we use it. Maybe the real danger isn't that AI will think for us. It's that we'll slowly stop noticing when we're no longer thinking. AI can free the mind, but only if the mind stays involved. The cognitive cost of AI depends on what we stop practicing. Maybe the rule is simple. Use AI in ways that make you more capable when you walk away from it, not less capable. So I think the question isn't whether AI is good or bad for cognition. The question is whether the way we use AI is training us to become more capable or training us to need it for things we used to be able to do ourselves. I think we'll wrap it up here. I appreciate you all for coming on that journey. I think we've sufficiently developed that idea and come to some really good conclusions. It really worked that topic out as best we could. So I hope that you enjoyed the first regular solo episode of the Jackson Downer podcast. This was episode 3. And yeah, I will be looking forward to seeing you in the next one.